Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna to all Prabhujis and Matajis. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We'll start first with the prayers as usual to ask permission from the Parampara to discuss spiritual subjects. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajata Sahagana Raghunathanvitam tam sajivam sadvaitam savadutam parijana sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please recite with me. After I recite, please recite. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata semaya bhagavatya uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nandagopa kumaraya govindaya namo namah nama pankajanabhaya nama pankajamaline nama pankajanetraya namaste pankajangre नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदाय ते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः नमो ब्राह्मण्य देवाय गो ब्राह्मण्य हिताय च जगद्दिताय कृष्णाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे उपं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्पातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं सर्वावस्थां गतोऽपि वां स्मरेत् पुण्डरीकाक्षं सभयाकरं शुचि श्रीविष्णु Hare Krishna. Very good morning, Krishna conscious. Good morning to all the devotees who are gathered today. There are few participants only today, but we need to continue our journey in Krishna consciousness. And I'm extremely grateful to all of you for making it to today's class, where we will read Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 4. I would like to thank Lilananda Prabhu and Anumata ji for allowing me to take this class and giving me this opportunity. Also, all the senior devotees, Praveen Prabhu, Subbarao Prabhu, and all other senior devotees, my humble obeisance unto you, please. Please forgive me if I make any mistakes. Whatever mistakes I do commit during today's class is entirely on my account. I'm trying to do my best and follow what is there in the books by Srila Prabhupada. And please do forgive me if I do make any mistakes. So today we will get into Chapter 4 of Canto 4. We are progressing pretty fast. On Ekadashi day, Lilananda Prabhu covered Chapter 3. And we are now discussing on Canto 4. So I thought maybe we can start with just a very quick high-level overview of Canto 4 at the beginning part, so that, it starts with discussing the lineage of Manu and Swayambhuva Manu and Shatrupa. And as you are aware, Swayambhuva Manu and Shatrupa had 3 daughters and 2 sons. 3 daughters were Devahuti, Akuti, and Prasuti, and 2 sons were Uttanapada and Priyavrata. Now in Canto 3, we have read extensively about Devahuti and Kardama Muni. A little bit of that was also covered in the first chapter. And then we touched upon his other second daughter, Ruchi, who married Ruchi, and that was also discussed in chapter 1. Most of then from chapter 1, 2, 3, all the way up to chapter 7, we discuss about the third daughter and then Daksha and the lineage coming from there. So as we read, we heard from Lilananda Prabhu also last time that now we are discussing about Sati. So as we see that in chapter 2, we read that Daksha insulted and cursed Lord Shiva for not rising, for not standing up from his seat. And in turn, Nandi cursed Daksha and his followers. And Bhrigu Muni cursed Shiva's followers. And then in chapter 3, we read about Daksha initiating this sacrifice and then Sati trying to convince Shiva that she needs to attend. But Lord Shiva was already able to foresee the future, and he was cautioning her. Today in chapter 4, we will get into chapter 4, where we will read about what Sati does. So, despite Sati's Lord Shiva's warnings, Sati decides to go to the sacrifice. And what happens then is what we will read in this chapter. So in a summary line, I'm giving of the story of Canto 4, chapter 4. We see that, Sati is very, very anxious to see her relatives at her father's house. So when she's from her house, she's of course able to see a lot of celestial denizens and all people dressed up very well, going to the sacrifice. And she has her nature, which is also a woman's nature, to be very social. She gets more and more anxious that she wants to see her relatives at her father's house. But at the same time, she's also afraid of Lord Shiva's warning. And she's quite in that anxiety, but finally she decides that she has to go. So she leaves Lord Shiva and goes to her father's house. And she's accompanied by Lord Shiva's disciples. And as expected, she is not well received by the people at the sacrifice, except for the woman folk. So that is her mother and her sisters and her aunt. They receive her well. And seeing this, she becomes quite angry. While though she refuses to accept the respects that are being offered by her mother, sisters, and aunts, because she realizes that her father has not only not invited Lord Shiva, but also she did not receive her well. I think we need to keep in mind that Sati was the pet daughter of Daksha Prajapati. So in that mood, she condemns her father and criticizes all the sacrificial activities that are being done for material gain, and all the proud individuals who are there in front of everyone. She then goes on to defend Lord Shiva and criticizes her father's envy towards him. So we did see in the early also some of Shiva's qualities, which she will rebut over here. At the same time, she realizes that she is a daughter of Daksha, and she expresses her shame and contempt towards her father and kind of a dislike to her body, and she vows to give up her body. And she meditates on Lord Shiva and immolates herself in a fiery blaze. So Daksha's disrespectful treatment, of course, astonishes everyone. And it creates a lot of anger amongst all the people also, especially the disciples of Lord Shiva who have come along with Sati. And they prepare to kill Daksha and attack him. But Bhrigu Muni intervenes in a timely way, and he invokes his yogic mystic powers. And through that, he invokes the Ribu gods who come and attack the attendants of Sati, and they disperse. So that is where chapter 4 ends. So we'll now get into reading the chapter 4. There are 34 verses. So I will adjust and modulate my pace accordingly because we have around close to 90 minutes. I'll try to finish in 80 minutes so that last 10 minutes we can have for questions. I will read the Sanskrit Devanagari shloka, and then I will request one of the devotees to read the translation. We can then, quickly go back and forth between what is there in Subodhini, but also what are the key takeaways from Srila Prabhupada's purport also. Maitre Uvacha Etavaduktva Virarama Shankara Patnyanganasham Ya Ubhayatra Chintayan Suridnidrikshu Parishankita Bhavan Nishkramati Nirvishati Dvidhasasa. Hare Krishna. Can One of the devotees, please read the translation. Please unmute yourself and read the translation.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
The sage Maitreya said, Lord Shiva was silent after speaking to Sati, seeing her between decisions. Sati was very much anxious to see her relatives at her father's house, but at the same time she was afraid of Lord Shiva's warning. Her mind unsettled, she moved in and out of the room as a swing moves this way and that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here we see that, Sati is very, very anxious, and in a very typical, the nature of the woman, the anxiety, they're moving back and forth. And though Lord Shiva has warned her, now we see Maitreya Muni is saying that he was silent after that she was not yet, she was like more sitting on the fence, and she was not able to make that decision, the indecisiveness that was there. And at the same time, he also knew what was going to happen. So I will just share, I read this, that it's there in ISKCON Desire also in the Valmiki Ramayana. At that time itself, Lord Shiva had given up on Sati, because there was an incident, there was a pastime that happened. And what happened was that after Sita's abduction by Rama, when Rama is wandering and he's moving towards the southern part of India, at that time, Lord Shiva is passing by, and he offers his obeisances to Rama, Lord Rama. Seeing this, Sati is a bit perplexed, and Sati asks Lord Shiva, why are you going down to an ordinary human being who's not able to even take the agony of losing his wife? At that point, Lord Shiva tells Sati that he is not an ordinary human being. He is Vishnu himself. So, and that is why I'm going down. Sati, of course, refuses to believe this, and she wants to test Lord Rama. So she comes down and she appears as Mother Sita, in the form of Mother Sita, and she stands under a tree. At that time, so when Lord Rama sees her, he walks towards her, and then he immediately offers her the obeisances and says, Mataji, where is Mahadev? Why are you without him? So hearing this, Sati is very, very bewildered that she was so perfectly looking like Sita. There's no way a human could have found out. At that same time itself, Lord Shiva, of course, he was able to see all this from wherever he is, and he realized that this is what is happening. And at that time, he gave up on Mother Sati. He said he cannot, because now that she has taken the form of Sita, I see her, my mother in her, and I will no longer see her as a wife. So, and this was happening so it has happened since then. Then this event was more an enactment so that this happens, wherein Sati then has to take another birth as Parvati and come back. And for that, she will have to do a lot of penances to get Lord Shiva. So, but this is just a bit of a background. So while this Leela is happening, this was already meant to happen. We'll go to the next text. Suriddidriksha pratighata durmana snehadrudatya shru kalati vivala bhavam bhavanya aprati purusham rusha pradaksha tivekshata jata vepatuhu. Hare Krishna. Can someone read the translation, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I'll read. Sati felt very sorry at being forbidden to go see her relatives at her father's house, and due to affection for them, tears fell from her eyes. Shaking and very much afflicted, she looked at her uncommon husband, Lord Shiva, as if she were going to blast him with her vision.
Thank you, Prabhu. So again, here we are seeing, and I'm sure many of us can also relate with the angry vision of the woman in the house, wherein, and here we are seeing that. So while she was feeling sorry that she is being forbidden to go see her relatives, and her husband is an uncommon husband. He's not the common husband. He's much above them, right? And also he appears in a very different way. But she looked at him as if she were going to blast him. Just 1 minute, please. Sorry. Yeah. So in the purport, Prabhupada discusses Sati's distress and Lord Shiva's equality, his equanimity. And the key takeaway of that purport is that this incident highlights the depth of Sati's distress as a woman and the complexities of her relationship with Lord Shiva. And so it also sheds some light that challenges can arise even in the divine relationships. So, of course, Lord Shiva knew all this is going to happen, but Sati is Durga, and she's part of this material creation. And for her, that distress was extreme, and for that's why it led to that extreme situation wherein she eventually has to give up her body. We'll continue reading in text 4. Sorry, my computer is a bit slow. Text 4. Sorry, text 3 after. Sorry. Tato vinishvasya sati vihayatam shokena roshena cha duyata prida pitroragatstaina vimudha dhirgrihan premnatmano yo ardhamadat satam priya. Can someone read the translation, please?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Santosha.
Thereafter, Sati left her husband, Lord Shiva, who had given her half his body due to affection. Breathing very heavily because of anger and bereavement, she went to the house of her father. This less intelligent act was due to her being a weak woman.
So, thank you, Prabhu. So, Prabhupada actually gives a pretty elaborate purport on this third verse and the fourth verse. And he mentions that understanding and overcoming womanly weakness is essential for a harmonious marital relationship. While I was personally reading the purport also, it's not a very easy topic for us in today's Kali Yuga, in this modern world, wherein we are bombarded with these messages on the man, woman, parallel, the rights, and etc. And it got me thinking quite a bit, around, why did Prabhupada write this? What was the frame of mind? And I was not getting an answer. I don't think I still have that answer yet. But yesterday, when I was listening to Lilananda Prabhu's lecture, during one of the, I think one of the verses, he talks about the nature. And what we need to keep in mind is that we have got a material body according to our desires. And with the desires with which we leave this world also will determine what body we next take. And that could be a woman, it could be a lion, it could be a tiger. And once we are trapped in that body, there will be a nature, that material nature is so strong, it will sway us. And it's happening now to us in our respective bodies. So when Prabhupada is talking about overcoming womanly weakness, he's not differentiating between man and woman. He's just highlighting the nature of the woman and the nature of a man. He later on also says that women are soft-hearted and men are hard-hearted. And these are natures. So while the soul is not differentiated, it is the soul that is conditioned soul trapped in this material body that needs differentiation because we are under that influence of material nature. So tomorrow, if in some of its purports, Prabhupada also says, you see a lion or a tiger, you don't go and hug the tiger and lion because they are on par with you. Right? There is a nature, inherent nature that is there of that particular soul that is trapped in that body. I think this is a very, very nice purport. And I'll encourage all of you to please read it. And there Prabhupada mentions very, very important points, highlighting, that it's the nature of the woman, that weakness that led to Sati's desire to leave Lord Shiva. Right? And he also identifies this nature as a cause for separation in marriages in today's world. And he puts a comment which is, again, you might view it as abiding by the husband's order brings peace to the family life. It is about, again, centered around the nature. So, and this is why, again, it's so important that we do read these scriptures under the right guidance. Otherwise, we are bound to get, influenced by the biases that we already bring to the table. We move to verse 4. Tam anvagachan drutavikramam satim ekam trinetranu chara sahas rashaha saparshada yaksha maniman mada dayaha puro vrishendras tarasagata vyataha. Hare Krishna. Can someone read the translation, please?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We saw Sati leaving alone very rapidly. Thousands of Lord Shiva's disciples, headed by Maniman and Mada, quickly followed her with his bull Nandi in front and accompanied by the yakshas.
Hare Krishna. Kitchen Prabhu.
Hare.
Thank you, Prabhu. This again is a very, very important verse, though it looks very simple. And the purport is equally important. But I stumbled upon a lecture by Radheshyam Prabhu, His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu, on this particular shloka. And while in the purport, Prabhupada emphasizes on the strength and the commitment of disciples, how it mirrors devotion and dedication of a spiritual master, and how it fosters a harmonious and powerful spiritual journey. He emphasizes on that. And if you look at the second bullet, when Maniman and Mada are following Sati closely, it's showing the fearlessness and unwavering dedication to their master. And Prabhupada emphasizes on this word, anucharah. That is the disciples' ability to understand and fulfill Lord Shiva's desire without hesitation. So Radheshyam Prabhu, in fact, in his lecture, he just focuses on this one word. And he has given, I'll share this, actually, it's a beautiful lecture. I'll share this after the class within the group. Wherein he emphasizes on this word and he gives wonderful examples from how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he took sannyas, and then he's walking toward Vrindavan, and Nityananda Prabhu tricks him and tells that Ganga is the Yamuna. And he becomes so delighted, he starts dancing and he starts going and bathing in the Ganges, thinking it's the Yamuna. And then he sees that Advaita Acharya is coming. And he gets surprised and he asks Advaita Acharya, "Hey Advaita, what are you doing here? How come you are here in Vrindavan?" Advaita Acharya laughs and says that, "Prabhu, wherever you step, wherever you are there, Vrindavan is there." And that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, realizes that Nityananda Prabhu has played a trick. And in this thing, he also chastises him. But Radhesham Prabhu says that internally, of course, the commentaries that are there, he was quoting from the commentaries that Chaitanya Prabhu, while externally he might have showed that kind of that angst, internally he was very, very delighted that Nityananda Prabhu knew his heart and did what he wanted him to do. And this is the point that Prabhupada is also emphasizing, the ability of the disciple to understand and fulfill Lord Shiva's desire without a hesitation. So the disciples here, they exactly knew what Lord Shiva wanted. Sati had to walk a long distance and they were not going to leave her alone because Lord Shiva already knew that Sati will not be welcome at Daksha's place. Radhesham Prabhu also concludes that lecture with a very, very interesting and very, very strong point wherein he says is a message for all of us that we should understand, we should have the ability to understand what is Prabhupada's mission, and we need to fulfill his desire without any hesitation. So I will share that. Please read this purport also. I'm not going through the purports in detail, but you can please read it once we are done. Text 5. Tamsarika Kanduka Darpanambuja Shvetat Tapatra Vyajanasrag Adibi Gitayanairda Dundubi Shankhavenubir Rishendra Maharopya Vitan Kitayayuhu. Please read the translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Shall I read it, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Translation by Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. The disciples of Lord Shiva arranged for Sati to be seated on the back of a bull and gave her the bird which was her pet. They bore a lotus flower, a mirror, and all such paraphernalia for her enjoyment, and covered her with a great canopy, followed by singing party with drums, conch shells, and bugles. The entire procession was a pompous as a royal parade. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So here the disciples, they are paying so much attention to detail. They ensure that Mother Sati is comfortable. She sits on Nandi. They give her a ball, lotus flower, etc., and give her a pet also, which is the bird, which was her pet. Does anyone know which bird it was?
Parrot.
Yes, Prabhu. It was a parrot. It was I think it was a female parrot.
You will see in Madurai Meenakshi temple.
Yeah. A female parrot. So, we'll go to verse number 6. There's no purport here. So we'll go to immediately verse 6. Text 6. Brahmagoshorjita yajna vaishasam viprashijastam vibhudaischa sarvashah mridarva ayah kanchana darbha charmabher nishrishta bandham yajanam samavishat. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, shall I read translation?
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. She then reached her father's house where the sacrifice was being performed and entered the arena where everyone was chanting the Vedic hymns. The great sages, Brahmanas and demigods were all assembled there, and there were many sacrificial animals as well as pots made of clay, stone, gold, grass and skin, which were all requisite for the sacrifice. Hare Krishna.
So what we see is that now Mother Sati has reached Daksha's house. And in this verse, the whole sacrificial arena is also described. It's the sacrifice, of course, being performed, but then there are great Brahmanas, demigods who have all assembled there. There are sacrificial animals. So Prabhupada touches upon this point and the significance of the transcendental sound vibration and animal sacrifice in yajnas. So he mentions that while in those days there was so much noise, so there was also that vivad that was happening between great sages, etc., where they were having some disagreement, but it was all leading to transcendental sound vibration. But he says that in this age of slow, lazy, and unfortunate people of Kali Yuga, the transcendental sound vibration is simplified in the Hare Krishna mantra. And he says that chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is recommended as a gathering to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He then touches upon also this point of animal sacrifice, knowing very well that, people will pick on this point and say that, in those days they were sacrificing animals. Why can't we sacrifice animals in today's world? And he says that animal sacrifice in yajnas was not meant for killing and eating, but to test the power of Vedic mantras and give animals a new life. So he in fact uses a very nice, he himself had a pharmacy and he was in the medical line. So he takes an example of a clinical trial actually. That's what I understood it because I'm also in pharma. And he gives this example. He says that in today's world, before we give the drug, we know that to know whether a drug is working or not working, we test it on animals. And he said, and in those days, it was to test the Vedic mantras and spiritual realization of a person the animal sacrifice was the process to do that, to test it. And it was not meant for eating or killing, but rejuvenating that animal to a higher life and a higher plane of spiritual realization. So these souls were performing yajnas to test their realization, similar to testing medicine effectiveness on animals in modern science, Prabhupada says. In a beautiful way, he explains it. So clearly, the focus of sacrifice is on the power of mantras and spiritual realizations, not on the slaughter of animals. He reiterates that. Tamagatam tatra nakascha nadriyad vimanitam yajnakrito bhayajanaha rite swashrir vai jananim cha sadaraha premashu kanthya parishas vajurmuda. Hare Krishna. Can someone read the translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
When Sati with her followers reached the arena, because all the people assembled were afraid of Daksha, none of them received her well. No one welcomed her, but her mother and sisters, who, with tears in their eyes and with glad faces, welcomed her and talked with her very pleasingly.
Hare Krishna. So this was expected again. So Sati reaches there and Daksha and Daksha's followers, they ignore her. They don't even respond to her. And Prabhupada's in his purport, they mostly respond to Sati's arrival there. And he concludes in the purport in a way wherein takeaway is that woman's natural affection and love should be valued and respected as it often transcends artificial barriers, he mentions there. And this we see there because irrespective of what Daksha is thinking, The mothers and sisters, they show immediate affection towards her, embracing her with tears in their eyes and loving feelings. Prabhupada says, women display natural affection and love that cannot be restrained by artificial means. That's why we also, in today's world also, there's people say that women cannot hide what they feel. It comes out. But the men present, although they were very, very learned brahmanas and demigods, were afraid to welcome Sati. Why? Due to the superiority and disapproval of Daksha. And here, Prabhupada talks about the soft-hearted nature of women and sometimes the hard-hearted nature of men, especially Daksha. So women by nature are naturally soft-hearted, and contrast that with men who are sometimes. We'll continue reading. Saudarya samprashna samartha vartaya matracha matre swasribishcha sadaram dattam saparyam varamashanam cha sa nadatta pitra pratinandita sati. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Sati.
Although she was received by her sisters and mother, she did not reply to their words of reception. And although she was offered a seat and presence, she did not accept anything. For her father neither talked with her nor welcomed her by asking about her welfare.
So Sati's attachment was there all to her relatives, her family members, including her father. As I said, she was Daksha's pet daughter. So she was very, very optimistic that her father will have a change of heart and that she would be able to reconcile father-in-law and son-in-law. But that was not happening. And even though her sisters and mothers received her in very well, she was not interested in it because she was looking for something else. She was waiting for her father to respond. So in the purport, Prabhupada says that we should seek deeper spiritual connections beyond transient bodily relationships. He's highlighting the fact that, Sati's father, Daksha, is ignoring her and failing to acknowledge her presence. But now the material body relationships, especially of Sati, are forcing her to have that expectation that, look here, now Daksha is going to have a change of heart. Prabhupada says material body relationships are transient and easily terminated by the slightest provocation. It's a very, very important sentence there. Material bodily relationships are transient and easily terminated by slightest provocation. Prabhuji and Mataji, I will ask you a question. I'm sure you must have experienced it. I have experienced it, wherein the closest of people that we have, whom we think or believe are extremely close to our heart and soul, that slight provocation which hurts their ego immediately turns them around. And from being that very, very close person, sometimes they can become enemies for a lifetime, or not friends, or people who hate you for a lifetime, or also for momentarily, or even for that momentary period. But it is possible. And this is where it's so important to remember that is being caused by the nature of the body in which they are trapped, which is now taking control of them. They are all born with a particular nature, and that nature is now controlling them. That is what is happening here. So happened to Daksha also. He has forgotten who he is, right? And he thinks, Daksha, expert, I am the great Prajapati. He's so become so materially engrossed that he has forgotten all the other relationships he has, the bodily relationships, that slight provocation of Shiva not standing. So, but Prabhupada emphasizes, he says that analogous to how bodily relationships, similarly, just like this bodily relationship can be terminated, he says our material attachments are also temporary. They can be terminated through chanting of the holy name. So beautiful purport again from Srila Prabhupada. Please read that. We'll go back to continuing to read the text number 9. Arudrabhagam tam avekshya chadvaram pitra cha deve kritahelanam vibhau anadrita yajna sadasya adhishwari chukopalokaniva iva dakshyat yati rusha. Hare Krishna. Can someone read? Okay, I'll read it.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Kanjan Prabhu. Please read.
Yes. 1 second, Prabhu. Yes. Present in an arena of sacrifice, Sati saw that there was no oblations for her husband, Lord Shiva. Next, she realized that not only had her father failed to invite Lord Shiva, but when he saw Lord Shiva's exalted wife, Daksha, he did not receive her either. Thus, she became greatly angry, so much so that she looked at her father as if she were going to burn with her eyes. Burn him with her eyes.
Hare Krishna. So in this verse, we see, the area, where it's happening, it's in the sacrificial arena. So, and in the sacrificial arena, there were no oblations for her husband, Lord Shiva. So that Namashvaya Swaha was not happening because that order was there. So nobody was doing it. And here, analogous to that, actually, she was becoming so internally angry, she was burning him with her eyes. It's almost like an oblation that she's offering, right? And we have heard this, in colloquial English, we have this saying, it says, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And that is what is happening, wherein, Sati is so angry now, right? She is completely feeling so insulted that her husband was insulted, and she's very angry on Daksha, her father, that she now appears to burn him in her vision. So again here, it's a Sati's material attachment that is also causing this particular emotion of anger that is coming. So Prabhupada highlights, he says that this story is highlighting the importance of showing respect and honoring relationships, even in difficult situations. So that's one of the takeaways for us, is that we might have many difficult situations, but we must make that extra effort in our lives, especially in all so many grahasthas are here, of showing respect and honoring relationships. We'll move to verse 10. Jagarha samarshya vipannaya gira shivadvisham dhumapatha shrama smayam swatejasa bhuta ganan samutithan nikrya devi jagato abhishrin vivataha. Translation: the followers of Lord Shiva, the ghosts, were ready to injure or kill Daksha, but Sati stopped them by her order. She was angry and sorrowful, and in that mood, she began to condemn the process of sacrificial fruitive activities and persons who are very proud of such unnecessary and troublesome sacrifices. She especially condemned her father, speaking against him in the presence of all. We'll just quickly see what are the significant points from the purport. So Prabhupada emphasizes on the importance of love and respect for Vishnu in his devotees. So on one side, of course, we saw that Sati's followers wanted to hurt Daksha, but then Sati stops them. And Prabhupada emphasizes that sacrifices offered for material benefit are condemned as useless labors without actual profit. And he says that love for Vishnu must be accompanied by love and respect for his devotees. So who is Vishnu's devotee here? Shiva. That Shiva has been disrespected. That's why it makes Sati very angry towards her father for disrespecting Lord Shiva, the greatest Vaishnava. And that is condemnable. And he says that anger towards those who blaspheme or dishonor Vishnu or his devotees is justified. So Sati getting angry is justified because that anger is due to Shiva being disrespected, who is Vishnu's greatest devotee. So, and he says that the quality of the anger is positive when it is directed against those envious of the Supreme Lord or his devotees. So our key takeaway from that purport is that love and respect for Vishnu and his devotees are integral to spiritual practice. And anger can be a righteous response when they are insulted or dishonored. They means the devotees or the Supreme Lord himself. So now we see that Sati she is ready to condemn Daksha. So she speaks. Devya uvacha nayashya loke stya atishayanah priyas tata priyo deha vritam priyatmanah tasmin samastatmani muktavairgake rite bhavantam katamah pratipayet. Hare Krishna. Does somebody want to read the translation? Yeah, I'll read it. Translation. The blessed goddess said,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, please read.
The blessed goddess said, Lord Shiva is the most beloved of all living entities. He has no rival, no one is very dear to him, and no one is his enemy. No one but you could be envious of such universal being, who is free from all enmity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So she is actually describing the qualities of Lord Shiva. So, and in a way also, she is also rebutting one of the questions that was raised by Daksha initially, wherein he had on Lord Shiva. So I'm just seeing if that is there in Subodhini. You can get your reference. So I'll read this. So Lord Shiva, who except you would hate Lord Shiva, who has no superior or rival in this world, Atishayanaha, to whom no one is dear or inimical, Priyas Tatha Apriyo, who is most beloved of all, Priyatmanaha, who is the soul of all beings, Tasmin Samasta Mani, and is without enemy, Mukta Vairake. So, here in the purport, Prabhupada is on the envy of Daksha and the devotion of Sati. So, he says that Lord Shiva is equal to all living entities. That is, he's equal in his way, how he sees everybody. And he also says that Lord Shiva and Supreme Lord have similar qualities, making him equal to everyone. But Daksha is envious, and Sati accuses Daksha of this, that you are envious of Lord Shiva, and that no one else could be his enemy, because no one else is Shiva's enemy. So which also implies that other sages and brahmanas present were not envious of Lord Shiva, highlighting the uniqueness of Daksha's enemy. So envy can blind us to the true qualities and greatness of others. And that is what has happened with Daksha. Being based on what he is perceiving and seeing through his material senses, he has been blinded with his envy to what is Shiva's real true qualities and greatness, which will again be emphasized. Move to the next verse. Doshan paresham hi guneshu sadhavo grihnanti ke chinna Bhavadrisho dvija gunamscha falgun buhali karishnavo mahatamasteshva vidat bhavan agam. Translation: Twice born Daksha, a man like you can simply find fault in the qualities of others. Lord Shiva, however, not only finds no faults with others' qualities, but if someone has a little good quality, he magnifies it greatly. Unfortunately, you have found fault with such a great soul. So over here, Daksha is being addressed as twice born. And Prabhupada further emphasizes on this point in his purport also. And he says, Dvija signifies twice born, those who possess higher knowledge and can discern good qualities. Highly qualified individuals focus on good qualities of others, disregarding their faults. Just like a bee finds honey, ignoring the thorns. Lord Shiva, known as Ashutosha, easily satisfies and grants blessings to all, magnifying their good qualities. But Daksha perceives Lord Shiva's good qualities as bad, leading to his own downfall. So recognizing and appreciating the good qualities in others elevates one's own soul. In the Subodhini, Gauranga Darshan Prabhu in this particular verse, he talks about sadhu and asadhu. So in fact, he has he's given the levels of sadhu and asadhu. So there are 8 different levels. So does somebody want to read this, or shall I read? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Sadhu accepts even faults in others, since the faults can eventually be transformed into good qualities by certain methods. Mahattara overlooks the faults, sees the good qualities. Mahattama takes good qualities and magnifies them, not seeing small faults. Ati Mahattama sees good qualities in others where there are none. Asadhu thinks that someone's good qualities will turn into faults. Asadhutara sees faults only, overlooking the good qualities. Asadhutama takes small faults and magnifies them, seeing no good qualities at all. Ati Asadhutama sees faults in others, even where there are no faults. Hare Krishna.
Now Daksha is actually being compared to that lowest category of Ati Asadhutama, which is seeing only fault in others, even when there are no faults. I'll continue reading text number 13. Nascharya tad yad asatsu sarvada mahad vininda punapatma vadishu sersham mahapurusha pada pamsubhir nirashta tejasu tad eva shobhanam. Translation: It is not wonderful for persons who have accepted the transient material body as the self to engage always in deriding great souls. Such envy on the part of materialistic persons is very good, because that is the way they fall down. They are diminished by the dust of the feet of great personalities. So over here, the emphasis is there on offenses, and how in the verse they say the dust of the great personalities. So Prabhupada in his purport emphasizes that, he says that offenses committed at the lotus feet of great personality diminish one's godly qualities and lead to downfall. Mahiyasam pada rajo vishekam. Forgiveness may be granted by great souls, but offenses to the lotus feet of the great souls are not excused. And he uses the analogy wherein he says that just as one can tolerate scorching sunshine on one's head, but cannot tolerate the scorching sunshine on one's feet. So here the feet are essentially that if you are walking on the hot road, the sun is beating down, it might be there, so Krishna will forgive it if you are is all merciful. But if you blaspheme a devotee, if you commit an offense against a devotee, he is not going to tolerate that and he will not excuse you. Just like the sun burns the feet. And offenders who falsely identify with a temporary body tend to commit more offenses and glide further into ignorance. Isn't that so? Isn't it so true? Once you get caught in that spiral wherein you are identifying yourself with this bodily concept of life, you are prone to commit more and more offenses. And you'll keep getting dragged down. And he says, like cows and asses. So recognizing this power of the recipient and cultivating humility can help avoid offenses and their detrimental consequences. So understanding whom you are engaging with, understanding whom you are interacting with, and we need to be extra careful aspiring devotees. Text 14. Yadya aksharam nama gireritam rinam sakrit prasangat agamashu antitat pavitra kirtim tamalanghya shasanam bhavanaho dveshti shivam shivetaraha. Translation. Sati continued, my dear father, you are committing the greatest offense by envying Lord Shiva, whose very name, consisting of 2 syllables, Shiva, purifies one of all sinful activities. His order is never neglected. Lord Shiva is always pure, and no one but you envy him. So the glory of Lord Shiva is also emphasized over here. The auspiciousness of that word itself, Shiva, of Lord Shiva, and his relationship with Lord Vishnu. So Lord Prabhupada says Lord Shiva's name, Shiva, is auspicious for those who identify with body as the soul. So for all materially trapped entities who are identifying with this material body, Shiva is very, very auspicious. Devotees of Lord Shiva gradually realize their spiritual identity of what? That they are the soul and not the body. And he goes on to say that auspicious life then only begins. Auspicious life begins with spiritual identification, but there is more to understand about our relationship with the Supreme Soul. So Lord Shiva is always absorbed in meditation on the lotus feet of Vasudev Shri Krishna. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. The topmost worship is the worship of Lord Vishnu. So Prabhupada emphasizes that for people who are trapped in this material concept of life, for them Shiva is auspicious. And as you continue to be his devotee, you evolve spiritually. And once you have identified yourself as the soul and not as his body, the topmost worship is what? The worship of Lord Vishnu. As Lord Shiva himself states in the Shiva Puran. We'll continue. Next 15. Yat pada padmam mahatam manolibhir nishevitam brahma rasasva varathibihi lokasya yad varshati cha shisho thinas tasmai bhavan druyati vishvabandhave. Translation. You are envious of Lord Shiva, who is the friend of all living entities within the 3 worlds. For the common man, he fulfills all desires, and because of their engagement in thinking of his lotus feet, he also blesses higher personalities who are seeking after Brahmananda, transcendental bliss. So, again, Prabhupada continues to emphasize the significance of Lord Shiva in material and spiritual life. So he not only satisfies the material desires, he also offers liberation and freedom from material identification. So he says Lord Shiva is worshipped by those frustrated with materialistic life seeking spiritual bliss. and he is the friend of both ordinary and elevated individuals, including Vaishnavas. I'm moving a bit faster now. Now the story is flowing, so I'll move a bit faster. So Sati continues. Kim va shivakyam ashivam na vidustvad brahmadayastam avakirya jata shmashane tanmalya bhasma nikapalya avasat pishacher ye murdhabir dadhati chach charanavashrishtam. Translation. Do you think,
Prabhu,
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please continue. Yes, please read.
do you think that greater, more respectable personalities than you, such as Lord Brahma, do not know this inauspicious person who goes under the name Lord Shiva? He associates with the demons in the crematorium. His locks of hair are scattered and all over his body, and he is garlanded with human skulls and smeared with the ashes from the crematorium. But in spite of all these inauspicious qualities, great personalities like Brahma honor him by accepting the flowers offered to his lotus feet and placing them with a great respect on their heads. Hare
Hare Krishna. So here Sati is also, I think now she's also rebutting Daksha. So she's emphasizing on the auspiciousness of Lord Shiva. So Daksha had challenged Shiva and also had actually kind of, said, what kind of person he is. He roams around a smashan, he has a garland around his neck. And now she's saying that, don't you think that Brahma, great people like Brahma don't know who he is? So Prabhupada in his purport, he clarifies on the supremacy and misconceptions surrounding Lord Shiva. About Lord Shiva's transcendental position, that despite his association with demons, crematoriums, and unconventional appearance, Lord Shiva's position is always transcendental and elevated. He is honored by greatly respected personalities like Lord Brahma. They honor Lord Shiva by accepting the flowers offered to his lotus feet and placing them with great respect on their heads. You must remember that Lord Shiva has higher qualities than Brahma. So Brahma has the maximum number of qualities that a jiva can have. Brahma is a jiva, but Shiva is not a jiva. He is above a jiva, right? And he possesses more qualities of Krishna than Brahma does. And Brahma knows that. And Sati is emphasizing that. And Lord Shiva's constitutional superiority, Lord Shiva's position is constitutionally higher than Brahma. That is what I just mentioned. He is not an ordinary living entity, but a distinct and unique personality. And he compares Lord Shiva to curd, which is milk transformed, he says. Similarly, he is in one sense the supreme personality of Godhead, but also distinct from by worshipping demigods, one can attain their abodes, but by worshipping the supreme personality of Godhead leads to elevation to the supreme. Prabhupada concludes. We'll continue. And if someone is interested in reading the translation, please timely unmute yourself, because I'm trying to keep to the time so that we can finish on time. Please unmute yourself and just let me know if you want to read the translation. Text 17. Karnaupidaya nirayadyada kalpashe dharma vitarya shri nibir asyamane chindyat prasaya rushatim asatim prabhush chej jivam asun api tato vishrijet sa dharmaha. Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Shall I read Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu,
No.
please.
Translation. Sati continued. If one hears an irresponsible person blaspheme the master and control of religion, one should block his ears and go away if unable to punish him. But if one is able to kill, then one should by force cut out the blasphemer's tongue and kill the offender. And after that, one should give up his own life. This seems like instructions for us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. It is Prabhu. So Prabhupada will also clarify in the purport, but if there are three sections to this, When should one block his ears and go away if unable to punish him? If you are a Brahmana. When should one kill? When you are a Kshatriya. And when should one give up his life? Right? Is if you are a Vaishya, a Shudra or a woman. So, and it's kind of an instruction for Sati also there. But Prabhupada emphasizes in his purport that in today's Kali Yuga that everyone is a Shudra. So he says that argument between Sati and Daksha revolves around vilifying a great personality. And Sati defends Lord Shiva against Daksha's blasphemy, highlighting the severity of the offense. She contemplates killing Daksha, but chooses to sacrifice her own life instead. So she says, one is, of course, Daksha is her father. But Prabhupada clarifies that Srimad Bhagavatam instructs not to tolerate vilification or blasphemy of an authority. Different courses of action are prescribed in 9.32 of Bhagavad Gita. Striyo Vaishyas Tatha Shudraha. In that verse, it says women and laborers and the mercantile class are on the same level. Thus, since it is recommended that Vaishyas and Shudras should immediately give up their bodies upon hearing blasphemy of an exalted person like Lord Shiva, she decided to give up her life. So, Prabhu, you are right. It's instruction for us also. Text 18. Atastavot pannam idam kalevaram nadhar dharayishe yishye shiti kantha garhinah jagdasya mohadhi vishuddhim andhaso jugupsitasyo tasyo dharanam prachakshate.
Translation. There I shall no longer bear this unworthy body which has been received from you, who have blasphemed Lord Shiva. If someone has taken food which is poisonous, the best treatment is to vomit.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Basically to expel that, that polluted substance, that vomit. But here again you see Sati's strong emotions. Now she's so strongly emotional. She's saying that this is no longer, I cannot bear this anymore. And she's calling her body unworthy. Why? Because it has come from Daksha. And she believes that any part of her that has come from Daksha, which has been received from Daksha, is not worthy for me to keep. Because you have blasphemed Shiva means this body is also blaspheming Shiva. And she wants to now, she's getting extremely emotional and now wants to quit her body. So Sati is coming to a decision here and she wants to quit her body. Prabhupada in his purport, I won't go through this in detail, but essentially highlights 5 important things. The one is the power of renunciation, where Sati chose to give up her body. Okay. He talks about the importance of personal duty. And he talks about the transcendence of elevated souls. So he says, and the very important point, it says, behavior of elevated transcendentalists and fallen souls may seem similar. Transcendentalists can surpass Vedic regulations like demigods in space, but there are rules for common individuals. Common individuals cannot. So if Shiva is doing something, he is equanimity. He is in a complete state of equalness. He's already reached that zone. He's gone beyond that. We cannot compare ourselves to Shiva and try to emulate him. So he says, never vilify great personalities like Lord Shiva. Never try to imitate Lord Shiva's behavior without understanding his transcendence and essence. If you do that, it's a great mistake. So when people actually, that want, in this today's Kali Yuga, I've got friends also who say that, शिवा भांग पीता है तो मैं भी दारू पीऊं, वो चरसी है तो मैं भी चरस लूं. Don't try to do that. So this very, very important purport where Prabhupada is hitting very, very hard that transcendence of elevated souls he talks about. Do your personal duty, avoid criticizing others. Text 19. Navedavadan anuvartate mati so eva loke ramato mahamune yatagatir deva manushya yog pritak So eva dharme na param kshipet taha. Hare Krishna. Someone want to read? Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, again, I'll read. It is better to execute one's own occupational duty than to criticize others. Elevated transcendentalists may sometimes forego the rules and regulations of the Vedas since they do not need to follow them. Just as the demigods travel in space whereas ordinary men travel on the surface of the earth. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. I'll read the next verse. Karma pravittam cha nivritam apyakritam vede vivicchyo bhaya linga viroditad yoga padaika kartari dvayam tatha brahmani karma narchati. Translation. In the Vedas, there are directions for two kinds of activities. Activities for those who are attached to material enjoyment and activities for those who are materially detached. In consideration of these two kinds of activities, there are two kinds of people who have different symptoms. If one wants to see two kinds of activities in one person, that is contradictory. But both kinds of activities may be neglected by a person who is transcendentally situated. Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada emphasizes on the gradual progress one makes in transcendental life. So says Vedic activities aim to guide the conditioned soul towards detachment from material enjoyment and into the transcendental position. He talks about the four social orders, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. And now these progressively train individuals for transcendental life. And he says the activities and lifestyle of a Grihastha householder differ from those of a sannyasi, renunciant, and one cannot simultaneously adopt both roles. Lord Shiva occupies a transcendental position. So here again, he says that he is transcendental. He is always observed in the thoughts of Lord Vasudeva, surpassing the activities of householders and a renunciate. So at the same time, he might be a renunciate. At the same time, he can also be a householder. He is different. You don't try to be him. When one fully engages in transcendental service without attachment to material results, they reach the stage of Buddhi Yoga or Samadhi, where Vedic injunctions no longer apply. Bhagavad Gita 2.52 and 53. So he's emphasized on the gradual progress that we need to make as jivas. We have to make gradual progress. But don't expect that from Shiva. He can be at any level, he's already beyond that. He's already transcendental. Text 21. Mava padavya pitarasmadaspita ya yajna shalasuna nadhuma vartmabhi tadanna triptair ashubrid bridbhir idita avyaktalinga avadhuta sevita. Hare Krishna. Translation. Please read, Mataji, if you want to read. I will read.
I will read, Prabhu.
Yes,
My
Prabhu.
dear father, the opulence we possess is impossible for either you or your flatterers to imagine. For persons who engage in fruitive activities by performing great sacrifices are concerned with satisfying their bodily necessities by eating foodstuffs offered as a sacrifice. We can exhibit our opulences simply by desiring to do so. This can be achieved only by the great personalities who are renounced self-realized souls.
Hare Krishna. So here in the purport, I'll show that, and Prabhupada further emphasizes on the opulences of these transcendentalists. He says these are avyakta opulences. These are not manifested. Just like the Kumaras and Narada manifested these, they don't show it, but when they want, they can do it. So that's what Prabhupada says in his purport. He says Sati defends Lord Shiva's opulence. He says that he refutes that Lord Shiva is devoid of cultural opulence because it is avyakta, it is unmanifested. And Lord Shiva's opulence in renunciation and is in love of God. This is not something that in materialistic display of sense gratification. Right? And we have seen this, Kumaras, the Naradas, and Lord Shiva, Prabhupada says, possess such opulences and simply by willing they can show them. So whenever, as they desire, they can show it. But they don't need to also. Prabhupada further goes on to condemn the fruitive ritualistic sacrifices. He says that if performers to satisfy demigods for material gains are criticized, real sacrifice is meant to satisfy Lord Vishnu. And such offerings benefit advancement in devotional service. He then concludes and he says, talks about worship of Lord Shiva and material opulence. Basically, Sati explains that she, as the devoted wife of Lord Shiva, bestows material opulence upon his worshippers to glorify them, while the worshippers of Lord Shiva, Vishnu, focus on spiritual elevation. So, what does she mean there? Because she is Durga herself, Prabhupada says in the 10th canto, has been more further discussed, wherein as the superintendent in charge of material affairs, he can offer all the material opulences that one wants. We'll continue. Text 22. Okay. So text 22. Naitena deyahena hare kritagaso dehodbhavena alam pujanmana Ridama mama bhut pujana prasangatas tajjanma digyo mahatam avadyakret. Translation. Yes, Prabhu, please read.
You are an offender at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva, and unfortunately I have a body produced from yours. I am very much ashamed of your bodily relationship, and I am condemned myself because my body is contaminated by a relationship with a person who is an offender at the lotus feet of the greatest personality. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Sati is now actually, she continues to feel regret there that on one side Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee, and her grief is not due to her association with Lord Shiva, but because her body is related to Daksha, who has offended Lord Shiva. And since that body has been given by her father, it makes her feel herself, she feels condemned, emphasizing that this emphasizes the significance of respecting Lord Shiva. And so she wants to give up her body. Text 23. Gotram tvadiyam bhagavan vrishadvajo dakshaya nityaha yada sudurmana vyapeta narma smitamashu tadaham vyutsrakshya etat kunapam twadangajam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Translation. Because of our family relationship, when Lord Shiva addresses me as Dakshayani, I at once become morose, and my jolliness and my smile at once disappear. I feel very much sorry that my body, which is just like a bag, has been produced by you. I shall therefore give it up. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Very strong last verse, in condemning. Body is feeling like a bag. Our bodies are also just like bags. But do we identify with the bag, or actually do we identify with who we actually are? Question for all of us to reflect on and keep reminding ourselves that we are not this body. But over here, I had mentioned that Sati was the pet daughter of Daksha Prajapati, right? And she was addressed as Dakshayani. Dakshayani. And Lord Shiva also sometimes used to address her. And she said that now it ticks, it hurts. It hurts so much that no more I can tolerate it. It is tearing her apart completely. So she was decided, now I'm going to give up the body. So let's move on and see what now Maitreya Muni will say. Maitreya Muni will address it to Vidura. Maitreya Uvacha Ityadvare Daksham Anudya Shatruhan Shitabudhichim Nishasada Shantavak Sprishtva Jalam Pita Dukula Samvrita Nimilya Drigyoga Patham Samavishat. Hare Krishna. Translation. Yeah, Prabhu, please read.
Maitreya, the sage, told Vidura, O annihilator of enemies, while thus speaking to her father in the arena of sacrifice, Sati sat down on the ground and faced north. Dressed in saffron garments, she sanctified herself with water and closed her eyes to absorb herself in the process of mystic yoga.
Hare Krishna. Prabhupada in his purport will emphasize on the power of mystic yoga, but also on the significance of the saffron garments, like giving up your dress. It's like giving up your body. So when you actually take sannyasa, you're taking up saffron garments, you're giving up that material attachment also. Over here, Sati taking up that is symbolically also giving up her body. So very clearly, Sati was aware of yogic practices. So he says Sati's change of dress indicates her intention to leave her body given to her by Daksha. And instead of killing Daksha, she chooses to destroy that part of body that was hers through yogic process. And she also suggests that she was aware of yoga. So either Shiva has been imparted that knowledge to her, or she already had that enlightened nature. He says that perfection in yoga allows one to give up the body at will. And real yoga process recognizes the transmigration of soul, indicating Sati's desire to transfer her soul to another body or sphere. So when Sati is leaving, she's still got that material attachment. So she's transmigrating from one soul to another soul. So she takes birth next as Parvati. So there's an analogy also that he uses, and just as a person changes clothes to indicate a shift in their purpose or identity, Sati changes her dress, symbolizing her intention to transcend the current body. And we continue now. We'll move a bit more faster now. Now it's very fast till the end because we are reaching the end of the chapter. Kritva samana anila ujita sana sodanam utapya cha nabhi chakratah shanair hridhi stapya dhiyo rasi stitham Kanthat Bruvor Madhyam Aninditaya Aninditanya Tanayat. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, yes, read.
First of all, she sat in the required sitting posture, and then she carried the life air upwards and placed it in the position of an equilibrium near the navel. And then she raised her life air mixed with intelligence to the heart, and then gradually towards the pulmonary passage, and from there between her eyebrows.
Hare Krishna. So here we continue to see, her knowledge of yoga, the process that she did, the yogic process, right? And talks about Prabhupada says the essence of yoga is actually elevating the soul to the spiritual level. So controlling the breath is one of the process, and he talks about the Sat Chakra within the body, the 6 circles of air circulation, and gradually one elevates this up and up and up, and then she takes it to between her eyebrows. And one of the he emphasizes, in these days we see that yoga is used for all gymnastics. He call it merely engaging gymnastic like sitting postures is not yoga and cannot lead to the highest perfectional state of yoga. And he does not lose the opportunity to emphasize on Bhakti Yoga. The process of devotion is considered the greatest of all yoga systems, as it's a you take the lift directly up to the top, right? So yoga is not solely about physical fitness or bodily gymnastics. Its ultimately aim is elevation and liberation of the soul. In Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion is the most important means to achieve spiritual perfection. Text 26. Evam swadeham mahatam mahiyasa muhu samaro pitamankam adarat jihasati daksha rusha manasvini dadhara gatreshva anilagni dharanam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thus, in order to give up her body, which had been so respectfully and affectionately seated on the lap of Lord Shiva, who is worshipped by great sages and saints, Sati, due to anger towards her father, began to meditate on the fiery air within the body.
Yes. So she is now focusing on the fiery energy inside her body to burn herself. Text 27. Tatasva bhartush charanam bhujasvasavam jagadgurosh chintayati na chaparam dadarsha deho hatakalmasha sati sadya prajavala samadhi jagnina. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Translation. Sati concentrated all her meditation on the holy lotus feet of her husband, Lord Shiva, who is the supreme spiritual master of all the world. Thus, she became completely cleansed of all kinds of sin and fit her body in a blazing fire by meditation on the fiery elements.
So she concentrates on the whose feet? Lotus feet of her husband, Lord Shiva. Who concentrates, who looks up to Lord Shiva? Somebody who's still in that material conception of life. Prabhupada doesn't miss that opportunity to emphasize this point in the purport. So, and that is why she takes rebirth again. Thus she became completely cleansed. So he there also says that one by focusing on Lord Shiva, you can be completely cleansed of all taints of sin, and then you can quit your body. And that's what Sati does. We'll just see some important points in the purport. So he says, meditation on the lotus feet of Lord Shiva brought great pleasure to Sati, enabling her to forget her bodily relationships. This pleasure was certainly material because she gave up her body for another body that was material. The devotee's concentration on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord brings transcendental bliss and helps transcend material attachments. Immediately after that, he's emphasizing the devotee's concentration on what? Lotus feet of Vishnu, Krishna, Supreme Lord, brings what? Transcendental bliss and helps transcend material attachment. So you go beyond that. He's saying where we need to do. He's giving you the instruction. Sati's meditation led her to be free from all contamination. Actually, did it lead her to be free of all contamination? Her concept of the body derived from Daksha. That's all. That was what was free. What was her concept of the body? That is a condemned body. I need to get rid of that body. And I still need another body because I want to be with Lord Shiva. So, from all contamination and attaining the perfection of yogic samadhi, material contamination can be burned by the blazing fire of yogic ecstasy, freeing one from material attachments, chanting the holy name, remembering the lotus feet of Krishna, and offering prayers to the Supreme Lord, immediately free one from material contamination. So he take away very important purport. Please read this. By meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one can attain transcendental bliss and freedom from material contamination. Text 28. Tat pashyatam khe bhuvicha bhutam mahat aheti vadah sumahan ajayata antapriya deva tamasya devi jahav asun kena sati prakopita. Translation.
Right, so when Sati annihilated her body in anger, there was a tumultuous roar all over the universe. Why had Sati, the wife of the most respected demigod Lord Shiva, quit her body in such a manner?
Yeah, so Sati, daughter of Daksha, Prajapati, wife of Shiva, Lord Shiva, the greatest Vaishnava. And she is putting her body in such a role and manner, the tumultuous role, that's what it says, the whole universe, there was a vibration. All the demigods, they were saying, what is this? What is happening? So, she gave up her position, daughter gave up her body despite her privileged position. What is that privileged position? Daughter of Daksha, wife of Shiva. But she gave up that body. So what Prabhupada says is material opulence does not guarantee complete satisfaction, Prabhujis and Matajis. Please keep that in mind. Material opulence, no matter, you have such a privileged position as that also of the Sati, which is daughter of the Daksha Prajapati, wife of Shiva, that does not guarantee complete satisfaction as demonstrated by Sati's dissatisfaction. The body, mind, and soul can only find complete satisfaction through devotional service to the absolute truth. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo. I'm forgetting now, Prabhu, but Ahetuki Atpradita Yaratma Suprasidati. Emphasis the importance of achieving real satisfaction through devotion to the absolute truth. So we need to all develop unflinching love for that transcendental supreme personality of Godhead. That is only one that is going to lead to ultimate satisfaction. No other way. Text 29. Aho anatmyam mahadasya pashyata prajapateryasya characharam praja jahavasun vimatad majasati manasvini manam abhikshanam arhati. Translation. It was astonishing that Daksha, who was Prajapati, the maintainer of all living entities, was so disrespectful to his own daughter Sati, who was not only chaste, but was also a great soul, that she gave up her body because of his neglect. What does Prabhupada say in his purport? So he talks about this astonishing fate of Sati, but what led to that was neglect. That led to death of Sati. And that was a betrayal, he says. Says the term anatmya reveals that although Daksha appeared alive, he was in fact spiritually dead. He was only materially conscious. He was not spiritually alive anymore. Even though he was what? He was son of? He was not alive spiritually. Daksha, as the Prajapati and governor of all living entities, had the responsibility to care and provide comfort to all living beings. But he didn't do. Sati's death resulting from her father's negligence shocked the great demigods. The next few verses we get on to is basically now we'll get into the concluding. There are 4 more verses only. I'll go through all the 4 verses and then we'll go through the summary of all the purports. Soyam durmasha hridayo brahma drupcha loke pakirtim mahatim avapsyati yad angajam swam purusha udyatam na pratyasedhan mritaye aparadhata. Translation. Daksha, who is so hard-hearted that he is unworthy to be a Brahmana, will gain extensive ill fame because of his offenses to his daughter, because of not having prevented her death, and because of his great envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Note the 2 important things. Offenses, envy of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Next 31. Vadatya evam jane satya drishtvasu tyagam adbhutam daksham tatpar shadda antum udat tishtan udayudaha. While people were talking among themselves about the wonderful voluntary death of Sati, the attendants who had come with her readied themselves to kill Daksha with their weapons. So now the scene is changing. So the attendants there are very, very furious, and they take out their weapons to charge against Daksha. So what happens? Tesham apatat tam vegam nishamya bhagavan bhrigu yagnagna nena yajusha dakshina now juhavaha. So these attendants, they came forward forcibly, but what happens? Bhrigu Muni saw the danger and offering oblations into the southern side of the sacrificial fire, immediately uttered mantric hymns from the Yajurveda by which the destroyers of yajnic performances would be killed immediately. So Bhrigu Muni sees this happening and he immediately invokes yogic mantras, his yogic mystic yogic powers, offers these utters mantric hymns from the Yajurveda, and immediately he invokes the demigods, the Ribhus there. That's the power of chanting the Vedic mantras. Prabhupada elaborates on the purport. I will come on that later. We'll go through 33 and 34 and then conclude. Advaryuna Uyamane Deva Utpetur Ojasa Ribhavo Nama Tapasa Somam Praptah Sahasrashah. When Bhrigu Muni offered oblations in the fire, immediately many thousands of demigods named Ribhus became manifested. All of them were powerful, having achieved strength on Soma, the moon. So that's the strength on the power that they had during those days. The Munis, great Munis of those days, they were able to invoke with their yogic powers, who invoked the demigods, namely the Ribhus, they became manifested. And how many thousands of demigods came? And now they are all going to charge against the attendants of Sati who are there, the disciples of Lord Shiva. They are alay ta yuday sharve pramatah saha guhyakaha anyaman disho bejur ushadbhir brahma tejasa. Last verse, last translation.
Hare
When
Krishna.
the Ribhu demigods, please Prabhu read, Prabhu.
When the Ribhu demigods attacked the ghost and Guhyakas with half-burned fuel from the Yajna fire, all these attendants of Sati fled in different directions and disappeared. This was possible simply because of Brahma Teja's Brahmanical power. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we'll now just see the final summary of all those purports. They are short purports. So Prabhupada emphasizes here on the Vedic mantras. We saw the power of the Vedic mantras, but he also uses the opportunity that this is not that particular yuga, Kali Yuga, and chanting is the only method for self-realization. In his purports, he talks about the duty of the attendants. So here the disciples, what they have to do. The duty of the attendants is to protect their master and willingness to sacrifice for a noble cause. So what they did in terms of attacking Daksha was a noble cause and a noble duty. He also emphasizes, as I mentioned, on the power of the Vedic hymns. He says, in our Kali Yuga, these expert mantra chanters are not there. It's a rarity. We don't have them in Kali Yuga. He says, and these mantras, those days, they had solid potency. The potency was what? To manifest demigods. So, in today's world, that is only possible through. And he says that Brahma Tejas and Brahmanical power. So, in the past, the power of the Brahma Tejas was there. In Kali Yuga, we don't have genuine Brahmanas anymore. We are all Shudras. But we have the gift of Lord Chaitanya, Mahaprabhu, who has given us this magnanimous gift of what? The Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Let us all chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chanting this Hare Krishna mantra, Prabhuji's and Mataji's, is recommended practice in this age of Kali for self-realization and achieving all perfection as stated by Lord Chaitanya. Hare Krishna. That brings us to a conclusion of chapter 4 of Canto number 4. I think we've just taken a little bit over time we've gone, but any questions, we can take those questions now, Prabhujis and Matajis. Please forgive me if I have rushed or if I have committed any blunder or mistake while going through this chapter. I've tried my best over here. Please forgive me for that. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, one question. It's a logical question. Here in Srimad Bhagavatam, they have mentioned like Sati has the, from the fire, which was born from her. She was become like she burnt herself, right? That's how
Yes.
she converted. But we have in our we have those Ashtadasha Shakti Pital, 18 places where we worship the goddess. So,
Yes.
and it is mentioned in another Purana that all these are the limbs of the limbs of Sati, which
Yes,
were
Prabhu.
which were cut by the Vishnu's Sudarshan Chakra. When Shiva was carrying the body of Sati, and he was dancing, doing the Tandava with so much aggression. So Vishnu has cut the body of Sati into pieces, and then their 18 pieces fell over all over India, and then they become the Ashtadasi Shaktipitas. So I'm just trying to relate that here. I don't know whether we should relate it or not, but when the body is completely become ashes, how these stories can be related to that one.
So it was a charred body, Prabhu. So even I read that, Shiva comes and then, we'll read further on, and that she takes the body and he goes. But whether it became to ashes, I don't think, Prabhu. That because I've read that, he comes and he takes the body, he takes the charred body. Yes, Prabhu. So doesn't get converted to ashes, Prabhu.
Okay.
That is my understanding. Any other senior devotee, I will request them to also comment on this, Prabhu.
Most of the I don't know, we should not refer, like most of the movies also they show that she was like completely burned into ashes. So
we'll go by the scriptures only, Prabhu. So what is there in
correct.
We'll stick to that, Prabhu.
Okay, so you are saying that, I mean, maybe it is not completely burned into ashes, but there is a body.
Yes, yesterday actually when I was actually just preparing also, at that time I had read this. Shiva comes, he takes the charred body, and then the pieces that fall down become the Ashtapitas that is there. That is that you're right about that. And I've read that through valid things from ISKCON Desire Tree. So I'm just assuming that that's right. That is the correct one.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. If there are no more questions.
Wonderful session, Prabhu. You're reading slokas very, very nicely, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Your blessings, all your inspiration only is also inspiring me to continue in this Krishna consciousness journey.
Maybe sometime we can explain us how to read this slokas, Prabhu. You can explain, or you can give some hints to us, like how to read the slokas, Prabhu. Very well.
How to read slokas, Prabhu? I studied Sanskrit in school, Prabhu.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
I'll try to, but you should read it slowly, Prabhu. That's what I've realized is that if you try to run fast when you're reading that in English, the script, no, Prabhu, then if you try to read fast, you'll get confused. Try to read slow, and when you have long words, try to break it up. That you know the correct point. That once with practice, you'll know which point to break, Prabhu. That then you can or pause. That's how I find it a bit easier. So and keep practicing, Prabhu.
Okay.
That's keep reading.
Okay. 2 hints you have given. Okay, slow and then break it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Nice. Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for that.
Yeah, you're reading wonderfully.
Thank you. Your inspiration, Prabhu. I'm getting an opportunity to be Krishna consciousness for 90 minutes. Thank you so much.
I think you are taking a lot of turns in reading Bhagavad Gita, these sessions and so inspiring.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dhanavad Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. We'll conclude the class, Prabhu, and we can conclude. Sri Gopal Prabhu. Okay. Okay, Mataji. You can. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji and Mataji. Wish you a very Krishna consciousness weekend. Thank you.